Hey, I just realized something so profound. I am God, and I am master of the universe. I'm serious. Haru Nefer, Het-Heru, Namaste. This is Kasangma Keparu with a very important message for you. And what I want to tell you is that I am God, and you are too. So let me explain what I mean by that, because I know a lot of people are going to be like, what is he saying? This guy's got a big ego. Well, if we want to look at history or antiquity with our ancient ancestors, we can trace the development of the concept of God all the way back to the very, very beginning. And one of the earliest forms of God that we worship was Heru, Horus. But even prior to that, our conceptualization of God was there. And some postulate that we're wired to believe in a higher being. But let me break this down to you. The first conceptualization of God came as an outside entity. And that's how we looked at the Supreme Being, as being outside of who we are. Now this comes directly out of European Western civilization. You know, our African ancestors, or ancestors coming from indigenous, native lands, believed that God was within us. All right, so, or existing within us and at the same time existing without. But we know that there is no external, that everything is within the mind. And that we create what we call as the external environment as a fourth dimensional experience to interact with. And it is Maya, it is an illusion. Now, so there you have the two conceptualizations of God. One as an external being, you can say white bearded guy, high in the sky, sitting on a cloud. And this also comes in a form of heaven and hell. The conceptualization comes out of the left brain, which does polarize thinking. This is why you have one place where good people go, another place where bad people go. Then we look at another culture, like I said, the African culture, which conceptualizes God as existing within, such as the indwelling intelligence, Oser, existing within and without. And that comes from the, I'm going to kill myself in this traffic, dual brain, comes from dual brain or integrated brain thinking, which some in Western cultures see as a paradox. It's like, how can God be within and also without? But we had no problems accepting what we come to understand as that which is diametrically opposed. So they don't really oppose each other, they complement each other. But we move further into a greater understanding as master magicians and magi's to a point of this. And let me take a step back before I get into the real deal here. If you study NLP, which is Neuro Linguistics Programming, that tells us that language or words are very powerful forms of communication that direct the subconscious mind to do certain things. And if you use words properly, you can program yourself to achieve greatness. And I totally agree with that statement. But more importantly, our ancestors spoke in the language that the original language that they had in terms of tonality. So the language was embedded with hakao or mantras or words of power, or more importantly, frequencies that invoke certain energies, okay? But anyway, NLP is a means of programming the subconscious mind. Now, if you understand the intricacies of NLP, then you'll know that it's very specific and precise in terms of how you use the language to communicate with yourself and others. Now, this is what we have to really come to understanding, and is this. If you incorporate that into today's understanding of God, then you change the entire dynamics. And in fact, I believe we have a higher understanding of God in the sense that I am God. See, when we start to look at God not as a third party, but as ourselves. And in the ancient Kemetic scripture, it says, I, as God, brought myself into being. That is powerful. Think about that. I brought myself into being. Deep. I don't know how that works, you know? But the point I want to make is this. We come to the evolutionary stage of the third phase. First phase, God is external. Second phase, God is external and within, the indwelling intelligence, Oser. And then the third stage is that I am God. There's no association to anything external, but you recognize that you brought yourself into being. You are God and you identify as such. And the reason you don't remember creating existence itself in the universe is because you have amnesia and you're working to get back to that point of where you recall the greatness of who you are and your power. And I believe that when we start training our children to understand the fact that they are God and stop referring to God as another person, another entity, or an outside power, and they start to identify it as themselves, what will happen there? Well, in terms of what NLP tells us is that you will start to take on the attributes of God, meaning that you will strive to be God-like. Isn't that wonderful? And when you identify with this all-powerful being, then you start not only to rewire how the brain thinks, but you change the reality before you because you have that power. Now what happens is you become very morally upright and you strive for the highest of values simply by identifying with who you truly are and not always referring to it as an outside entity or being. This is why the science of religion, you find that they have iconographies. They have images of Jesus or Ser or Horus or Isis, because you have to have that type of pictograph to identify with and aspire to be, because in reality God is no one thing. God is Amen, the hidden, so you can't see or perceive God. But going back to what I was saying, the key here is we must understand is that, hey, listen, I am God and I brought myself into being, and then from there I laid the foundation of the law, Ma'at, and from there I brought everything else into being. What a wonderful concept. An idea that we associate who we are with something so high and so just, and then we move from that point on to strive to be that. What other objective or what other path in life is greater than that? Because when you're aspiring to be godlike, even if you fall short, you still will have made a monumental achievement. Hey, this is Kasak Het-Heru. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and until the next video, I'm in Ra.